Hi everyone, I'm Will Brown and welcome to the WPQuickies series, WordPress tips and tricks in 30 minutes or less. This lunchtime I'm going to be looking at this new theme.json, which is part of this new kind of rollout of full site editing for WordPress and with all the editor changes as well. So we have a look at this little theme.json today. Thanks very much guys for taking your time to join me this very wet and dreary Sydney afternoon. So welcome to those in Australia, those abroad as well, and those on catch-up. Drop your name, where you're from in the comments, just so I know who's watching today. And while everyone's doing that, if you're on a social channel, if you haven't already subscribed or dinged the bell, do that. If you're on LinkedIn or Facebook as well, you can do a thumbs up or connect with me while we're going through these intro slides. And just to make you aware that we have a Facebook group as well, and so that's going pretty well. We're broadcasting live into this Facebook group, so it's WordPress Sydney Meetup. You can just search that in Facebook for that. If you are watching on Facebook and you haven't already done so, if you want to click on streamyard.com/Facebook, it just links your Facebook profile with StreamYard, which is the tool that I use to do all these live streams, and just allows you to see your name and your little avatar that comes up in the comments. That's a nice thing to have. We've got online, we've got Jean from the Central Coast. Welcome, Jean, and welcome to Kerry as well from Wollongong. We've got Kingsley Forrest Smith, and he says, sorry, it's been a while. Yep, wet here in Newport, Sydney. I think it's wet pretty much everywhere on the East Coast today. And Joey J from Singapore as usual. Thank you very much, guys. Glad to have you join me. As always, all the links for this will be created after the stream has ended, and I'll post them onto the Meetup page, onto Facebook, and underneath all the videos that you're watching them as well. Oh, and we've got Seventh Circle Designs from Dallas in Texas. Thank you guys for joining me. Hope you've got some better weather over there. And Susan as well. Hi, Susan. Great to have all you guys with me today. This is the penultimate, the second last WP Quickies for 2021. So yeah, it's been quite enjoyable to go through the year. But let's get stuck on with this one. If you want to ask, just drop a comment in the comments below. So ask a question for those. Just drop it. Do a hashtag ask at the beginning, if you like, and I can scroll through and see where all the questions are. But let's get stuck into the topic today. So theme.json. WordPress 5.8 shipped with this file called theme.json, and it's a new way to be able to set kind of global styles and global settings for your themes and for the block editor blocks as well. Now, WordPress has been doing quite a lot of work towards this kind of full site editing, and you'll have noticed there have been lots of changes to the blocks, the WordPress editor, and to WordPress as a whole lately over the last couple of versions. So we're seeing things like being able to use blocks in widgets, being able to use blocks in menus as well, which is coming. So they're slowly getting towards this whole full site editing with this block functionality, this block framework. And because of all these different settings, things have gotten a little bit more complicated over the last couple of WordPress versions. So as the WordPress editor blocks increase, the number of them increase, and the complexity as well. The people who are in charge of let's put this in full screen. The people who are in charge of the project, all the committers, all the people who work for Automatic, and all the different companies that contribute, they've really been kind of scratching their head and figuring out a way to be able to a really good way to be able to configure all these different components that now make up a WordPress site or a theme. And they've come up with this theme.json file. And this is the first iteration, the first type of this global configuration feature. Now, WordPress itself, the WordPress core, comes with default styles for the core editor blocks. So things like paragraphs, headings, and images. WordPress itself, when it loads in, it comes up with these core styles so it can use it out of the box. And of course, once you install a theme, the themes themselves come with their own blocks maybe, but they'll certainly come with their own settings and their own styles as well that are applied to the block editor, applied to the theme, applied to WordPress as well, which then reflect on the front end of the website. Now, it can be pretty daunting to try and consistently apply stuff like maybe a company brand to all these blocks. So if you've got a client that you're working with, and they've got a style sheet, they've got typography, they've got sizes, they've got colors, they've got widths and container widths and all things like that. It can be really difficult to apply that as a global setting to WordPress. You really, at the moment, you've got to go into all the different blocks, and you've got to change them on a kind of page by page basis, or on a template basis, and it's really quite complex to do that. And as well, if you buy a theme off maybe like Code Canyon or one of these other like theme forest type places, when you see the theme, when you run the demo up on their website, it looks beautiful and everything looks in place. But then when you get the theme down and you try to make it look like what it is on the demo site, it's really difficult, right? So this is where this theme.json file is coming in. So it's going to allow you to apply a consistent setting across all the different WordPress settings and all the different WordPress components like blocks as well, using this kind of JSON format. So just one thing to note is that the theme is this theme.json file is very much work in progress. So expect things to change in future releases or future versions of WordPress. And we've seen this change quite a lot when the block editor first hit us a couple of years ago. I've seen a lot of rapid change very, very quickly. It's kind of settled down a little bit at the moment, but we can expect the same thing for this kind of global configuration file, this theme.json. We can expect it to change quite a bit in its adaptation over the next few versions of WordPress. So please refer to the source of truth, which is developer.wordpress.org. So they've got the block editor guidelines in there. So if anything changes when they update the version, it'll be reflected in that particular documentation there as well. So it's a bit too early to be linking out to external places for documentation, because this is expected to change quite a bit over the next few WordPress versions. Okay, so some people might not know what JSON is. It's not somebody's name. It's not JSON. It's JSON. So it really stands for JavaScript Object Notation format, and it's basically used for serializing, bundling together bits of data and transmitting structured data over the internet. It's primarily used to transmit data between web servers or web applications. And the format has really gained popularity because it's understood by computers because it's structured, but it's also quite easy and readable for humans as well. So it's really kind of taken off in popularity. So it's kind of the go-to format for different services, different web APIs, different servers, and to communicate with each other and pass data backwards and forwards. So who's going to be able to use this theme.json? Well, pretty much anyone. It's going to be there. It's a public file. It's an editable file within your theme. But specifically, theme developers and theme designers are the people who are going to benefit from this the most, especially when they're doing things, as I said before, like branding a company for your client or for yourself as well. So being able to set a style for headings, maybe like your H1, H2, H3, all the way to H6. Being able to set stylings for paragraphs, font sizes, font weights, font colors, and other branded elements as well. Being able to apply a brand color, like a color palette as well, is going to save a lot of time because it's just in this one particular file, this theme.json file. Rather than having to go to the customizer and all these different settings, or to go to your theme settings as well, or to go to block settings. So this whole idea is to have it in this one central place. So where can you find this file? Well, this file is going to reside in the top level directory of your active theme. So for example, if you're using the 2020 theme, then on a typical WordPress installation, I'll just hide me just there, then it is going to be in WP content /theme /2020 and then your theme.json. And similarly, if you're using a custom theme or a child theme as well, it's going to be in your WP-content / whatever your theme folder is, and then right on the root, you're going to find your theme.json file right there. Now, when the WordPress core loads itself in, it applies all its own settings and styles. It comes bundled with the WordPress core app. So then when a theme is activated as well, so after the WordPress core loads in, when the theme loads in, the theme itself is going to apply its own settings and styles, which is going to override some of the WordPress core styles. And when a site admin adds additional CSS into the customizer, for example, or from a plugin that allows you to add custom CSS, then those settings and styles are going to override those from the active theme, which are overriding those from WordPress. And this is basically how cascading style sheets work. And this is what the theme.json is. It's basically telling WordPress, it's telling the theme all the different settings it should use so that when it comes to rendering a web page on the front end, that it's all going to work properly as well. But this is the way it works. The theme.json, it comes in at the theme level. So it's going to override all the WordPress core functionality. So WordPress sets particular stylings for paragraphs, for headings in the WordPress core app. Then the theme comes along and then it overrides these depending on how the theme looks. And this is going to be specified by the settings now in theme.json. So how do we manage these styles? Okay, by using the theme.json file to set style properties in a structured way, the block editor can manage the CSS that comes from different origins. So we're talking here about the core WordPress app, we're talking about themes, and we're talking about user override CSS as well. It's going to be smart enough to know which settings to apply. So for example, if a theme and a user sets the font size for paragraphs, then by using the theme.json, then WordPress is going to be intelligent enough to know only to queue, only to load in those assets coming from the user and not from the theme as well. So it's going to be more smart in how it loads stuff in, rather than just kind of load the WordPress core, load every theme, and then apply all your custom CSS. It's going to be looking in this theme.json to see what's overriding where and then apply that particular different CSS from there. And the advantage of this approach is that it's going to reduce the amount of loaded CSS, which decreases specificity wars, and that's where users are having to target elements using a large number of classes, or even worse, use that exclamation mark important to override all these different CSS rules that are being applied. So loading less CSS, I think, is a good thing. That gets a thumbs up from me. Okay, let's have a look at the file itself. I'll just hide me from there. So here's an example of our theme.json file. Now we can see here, this is the structure of the JSON file. So the JavaScript notation file. So we'll go at the top, we've got like a version, and then that version's data is set to 1. We've got settings as well, and that settings is in a curly brace, and that means everything in between those curly braces, so the start and the end curly brace, that's going to be all the settings data. And within that settings, we've got a color setting, and that again has a little curly bracket because we've got multiple bits of data in there. So what we're doing here is in the settings, we're specifying a color setting, and then within the color, we're setting a palette. And the palette has some data in it. So the palette itself has some data, and we've got multiple bits of data here. So we've got a name for the color. We've got a slug, which is the URL friendly name for the color. And then we've got the color, the hexadecimal code for it itself. And then we've got another one down here. So basically 2 colors here. We've got one called pumpkin and one called hokey pokey. And the current version of the theme.json, it needs to be set to version 1. Just now, otherwise WordPress is not going to recognize it and it's not going to load it in. So that I'm not quite sure, and it's not specified in the documentation exactly what this version is for or how it's going to be used. But certainly, if you want to implement this theme.json just now, you've got to set that version just to 1, not in commas, just a number 1. Otherwise, it won't get loaded in. So here is I've been using GeneratePress a lot for some projects. I really like it just now. So here is the default GeneratePress block color settings. So I've got a child theme, a very basic child theme of Genesis here, and I've got no additional CSS. So when I go into something like a paragraph or a heading, like a core app heading, and then go on the right-hand side to the block properties and click on color, this is what I see. So these colors here are set by GeneratePress, the GeneratePress theme. And you'll see that these are the corporate colors for the GeneratePress. So it's a very cold colors. It's got darks and grays and blues. So that's the color palette just from GeneratePress itself. Now, this file here that I showed you, it's got these 2 colors, pumpkin and hokey pokey. When you load that in, and then refresh the editor, if you go to the same block color again, you can see that this is now changed. Now it's got our 2 colors in here that we specified. I've just hovered over this one just so you can show that the name is being brought in as well. Now, this is like a game changer for branding. I can tell you, I've just went through a client website and they had lots of branding. And one of the main things they said was, when they click on color, where's the color palette? I'm like, so you can do it within the functions.php file, but it's a lot of work. to get that sort of stuff onto that particular block. Whereas using something like as simple as this, and this is just a very cut down. Oops, previous one. It's a very cut down. Their styling was a lot longer than that. But using something as simple as that just allows you to achieve this. And from a client's point of view, that is gold. That's absolutely fantastic. They can then click on color. They've got their brand colors right there that they can click on and do all their stuff on there, rather than having to muck around with CSS or play around with color codes and remember everything just there. So that in itself, I think, is worth having a look at the theme.json, especially if you're developing websites for clients on that. So definitely worthwhile. So I like that bit. And that's just a very brief example of what we can do with the JSON file. Okay, so where the above example set the color settings for all the core blocks, so I could go into paragraph and click on colors, and this color palette would pop up. I can go to headings, and this color palette would pop up. So that applied to the whole WordPress core block. So it's like a global setting for that. This one here gets down into kind of a more specific settings for here. So in this one, we can see that as a global level, we are telling the color to get rid of the custom part. So in the color block, if you click down, you can see at the bottom here, it's got custom color, which you can click on. It's going to bring up a little, oh, you can't even see me. I'm doing all these actions. It's going to bring up a little color chooser widget there, so you can choose your color. You can disable that for whatever reasons, but you can get rid of that link there, and that's what this setting here does. So color, custom, set it to false. That link will disappear. Much easier than having to hack it in the functions.php file. But then, get a little bit further down. Let's get rid of me again. What we can see here is we've got this blocks setting. So blocks, and we've got some curly brackets again. And what we're doing here is we can actually specify specific blocks. So within the WordPress core, all the blocks have this word core and then a slash and then the block name. So we're targeting here the paragraph block that comes with the WordPress core app. Let's see if it can bring me back again. Yep, it's not going to overlap that. So we're specifying the paragraph block that comes with the WordPress core editor here. And we're basically saying we're allowing that color tab, that color property, we're going to allow that custom link just on there. So in essence, this little bit of code here is saying for all of the custom color widgets across all the blocks, get rid of that custom color link, except if you go and click on a paragraph. I'm going to allow you to create a custom color for your paragraph. Now you may be thinking, why would you want to do this? But from a marketing point of view, from an editor point of view, you might have a WordPress website that a lot of different editors with different roles are allowed to produce content, and you might not want people to be able to change, the heading 1 color of your corporate branding. So you'll be able to limit that just to those particular color codes that they can choose. But you can see how easy it is to kind of apply these settings at a top level and really specifically for blocks as well. So this one here, so if you're using custom block templates, excuse me. So if you're developing your own custom blocks and pushing that out to customer templates, you can specify the templates as well by name as well. So here we've got another settings in the theme.json file called custom templates. And we're basically saying for those, apply these templates, and there's the name, and give it a title, just to these specific post types. So again, whereas you'd have to go to your functions.php file, you'd have to basically say, if it's this block template, then only apply it to this particular custom post type. You can do that without any code, without any PHP code, just using this theme.json file as well. And the same applies for block template parts as well. So if you've broken your block template down into different parts that you serve for different WordPress templates, then you can specify how they're used across what different post types as well, just within this theme file. So that's quite useful. And so what else can the theme.json configure? So at the moment, this file can support a version number, which isn't really used apart from the number 1. It can do block settings on a global style, so across everything. You can set global styles as well for those. And then you can do custom templates, and you can do template parts as well. And again, expect that to really expand over the next few WordPress versions. So here's the kind of top level structure. an example of setting some global styles using the theme.json. So when you've got these styles at the very top level, so if we go back a couple of ones here, so here we were just addressing the blocks and just that paragraph block, and that would only apply specifically when this block is rendered in the editor and the front end. But what we're doing here now is we've got some global styles. So when you see the styles just up at this top level, and then we're setting like border for the color, radius, style, width, and we're setting a color as well. These styles themselves, when they're at the top level of the JSON file, they're actually enqueued or squished into the body, the HTML body selector. So if you can imagine your style sheet for your theme, right at the very, very top, you've got HTML, and then you've got body, and then you've got, you know, the WordPress and the web page stuff. But right at the very top, excuse me, if you're putting your styles in here, that's where those styles are going to get inserted. So if you're going to, if you want to set site-wide styles, you can put them in this theme file, this theme.json file, right at the very top, and they're going to be put right at the top of your website in the body element, and therefore they're going to apply across everything. So they're going to be applied first, even before WordPress gets to override those particular things. So this is another great way of being able to brand your site and your client sites as well. You can just sit down, you can put all their branding stuff in this right at the very top level, and you know that's going to be applied site-wide, you know, before even your theme hits or gets loaded in. Okay, so what about the Customiser CSS? So if you use the additional CSS section on the Customiser to add CSS to your site, the Customiser is going to override anything you put in the theme.json. Because of the way things work, you get the WordPress core app loaded first, then you get your theme loaded on top, and your theme will override anything that the core styles have. But additionally, if you want to override something in your theme, so if you bought a theme and it comes with this theme.json and they've applied styling to, for example, the H1 element that you don't like, then you can go into the Customiser, into the additional CSS, add that class in for that H1, and your code in that will override the theme.json. Because it's only been applied at a template level. So that's a kind of hierarchy that goes WordPress first, then your theme.json or your theme stuff, and then your Customiser CSS always get applied last. So if you want to override any of that stuff, then jump onto the Customiser. There we go. That's it. It was actually, it wasn't a quickie one today, almost 25 minutes. So the theme.json file, it's a step in the right direction towards WordPress global styles and settings. It's a real game changer if you're doing client websites, because as I said, you can just load in all the brand stuff in there, and you know that's going to be applied across the entire website. You can do branding of colors as well, which I think is a bit of a game changer, you know, especially if you're doing client websites. They love having all that stuff, and it's not just colors. You can set up, you know, the H1 tags, the paragraph tags. You can set the font style, the font width, the line spacing, everything like that. You can set that all up as a default just in this one file, and it'll get applied across not only the front end of the website, but also the editor as well. So when people are actually in the WordPress editor, the clients are in there and they're creating a page, it's going to look and it's going to be styled just like it is on the front end, which is definitely a step in the right direction. But please note, this is relatively new and it's likely to change and broaden its scope in the future WordPress version. So definitely something to keep an eye on. But I'm getting quite excited about this one little file. I think it's a bit of a game changer, especially for us who develop and design themes and websites. So guys, if you have any questions, drop them into the chat below. I'll try and answer them as well. Here we go. Got one through from Jean. It's asking, do you use a JSON editor to validate your code? Well, I use PHP Storm, which is my IDE of choice, and it validates JSON. It recognizes whenever you type it in, it recognizes that it's a JSON file and it will format it accordingly. I would always recommend that when you're dealing with stuff like XML, you're dealing with stuff like JSON, that you really get some sort of editor that will recognize the different format. I think even something like simple as Notepad++, I think comes with a JSON recognizing format. Because, you know, it's very structured, it's still quite readable from a human eye, but once you start loading lots of stuff in, it's very difficult to miss a curly bracket or a square bracket or a comma somewhere. And just having your editor, just highlight that to say, oh, yep, that bit's wrong. It can save you heaps of time having to scroll through. So yes, definitely I'd recommend use some sort of JSON editor to validate your code before dropping it into WordPress. Great question. Kingsley says, we'll definitely save time chasing little bits all around the place. It certainly will. It puts it all in the same place, which is fantastic. But not only in the same place, it avoids you having to do all this PHP code as well. So if you're not a developer, if you want to put your brand colors, for example, in that color widget for the block property, that would be a nightmare for you if you're not a developer, because you need to go to functions, you need to write a function to override all those different codes and put them in. Whereas here it's just a simple text file that lots of people can understand, everyone can edit, everyone can do that, and it applies it all with no code in the one central place. So yeah, definitely thumbs up for theme.json. Okay, guys, fill out some suggestions for me as well. So I have decided to do WP Quickies in 2022. So I'm definitely looking for more topics. So anything that you guys would like me to cover in about 20 minutes with a little bit of time for chat, then please fill out some topics for me, and I'm going to queue them up over the holiday season for 2022. It's going to be excited to do WP Quickies again next year. And again, just a shout out for wpaustralia.org. If you're looking to find out any meetups in across Australia, there's a find meetup button, so I'll tell you which ones are virtual, which ones are face-to-face, hopefully, fingers crossed, face-to-face next year, or some sort of hybrid as well, and a button for Slack, for join us on Slack, which kind of looks like that. That's an old one there. But we kind of hang out and chat, ask questions, or just kind of do silliness on Slack. It's a great place just to meet people, get to know people in the WordPress community, and ask some questions as well. Jean says, thanks for explaining this kind of stuff in plain English. I do try. Some people get confused with my accent, but I try and slow down as much as possible. A little shout out for my website owner survival guide. You guys can have a look at that in your own time. And here is me. I'm happy to connect with you guys on LinkedIn. Most of LinkedIn these days on a developer will, although that's probably going to change in 2022, and you'll find out why after the break. I'm on Instagram as well, willbrown_EU, and on Twitter on the same handle as well. So at the end of this month, next Monday evening is the big WordPress Sydney evening meetup, when I'm going to be talking about 8 low-cost ways to drive traffic to your WordPress website. So if you're looking to increase your website traffic, and who isn't these days, join me for these 8 low-cost tips that are easy to implement. And next week, a little bit sad, but it's going to be the last of the WP Quickies for 2021. So I'm going to do a Zoom chat with everyone, so I can see all your happy, smiley faces. Bring along something to drink, something to eat as well. Whatever, it could be alcohol, could be beer, could be just a cup of tea, just like my one, just a nice cup of tea. Just to hang out for half an hour, have a chat. But what I really want to know from you guys setting up is what were your top wins for 2021? From a kind of business and WordPress point of view, and what sort of goals that you want to achieve for 2022. Let's start thinking about 2022 and what sort of things that you want to set up, what sort of goals you want to do for your business, for your company, for your personal, for WordPress, whatever it is. I'd love to be able to chat to you about goal setting next week. So join me then for the last WP Quickies. Other than that, thank you for joining me. Stay safe, and I'll see you next week. Bye, guys.